Game Changers, welcome and thank you for tuning in. We are live at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, NRB 2025, here in Dallas, Texas. We're out of the freezing cold, thank the Lord. But actually, I heard it's actually warm now where we just left, so whatever. God, we'll talk about it later. But we are so excited to be here. As you can tell, there's a lot of excitement. There's a buzz in the air. There's so much going on. God is just doing amazing things in the arena of media and digital content to get the word of God out. And I'm just so honored to be a part of this. I know you're honored to be a part of this as well, Matt. And I just want to give you guys a heads up. This is going to be the first interview here for NRB that we're going to show. We have a very special guest we're going to introduce to you here in a second. We're excited about it. We're going to make it official. It's a little bit of a joke. You'll get it pretty soon. But you can catch the rest of our interviews on pray.com. We'll have a playlist there that says NRB interviews or whatever. You'll see it. We'll have the rest of those out there. But for now, I don't want to take up too much time because I'm really excited about this guest that we have. So
absolutely. And on that note with pray.com, make sure you guys like, subscribe our YouTube, Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Primetime Gamechangers. Check us out. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. Go to our website, primetimegamechangers.com. Connect with us there. We've got a whole shopping stuff that you can go buy and get that merch and rep Game Changers wherever you go. But yeah, I'm really excited for our guest. I'm going to read a quick bio, and we're going to jump right into it. But we have Dave White with us, the chaplain of the White Rose Resistance. David White serves as the ministry's spiritual backbone, providing pastoral guidance to the team and the pastors engaged in the fight to reawaken the church in a culture of life and Christian resistance. With a PhD from UCLA, David brings extensive experience as a pastor, missionary, and mentor, having traveled to 70 countries, served as a missionary for 10 years, and pastored for over 30. His dedication to protecting life has inspired him to coach men for over 20 years, calling them to become resolute champions of faith. I love that. Known for making tough calls under pressure as a lead NCAA men's basketball referee. That's awesome. We're big sports guys, obviously.
And it's official.
David combines resilience with deep pastoral care to support leaders who are stepping out of the stands and onto the front lines in the battle against the culture of death. That is awesome. Welcome to Game Changers, David. We are glad to have you with us.
Great to be here. You guys are amazing. I love what you guys are doing. You're inspiring people, young and old, and getting them out of the stands and onto the court. Let's go.
Speaking of game changing, your resume, your background, holy cow, man. 70 countries?
Well, when you're really old, you get to you have a lot of time to travel. No, I've been fortunate. I studied in Germany in high school, so I had some time there. I went to seminary in England during my UCLA years. I had a chance to work with Crew and Athletes in Action and go over to the Soviet Union in the 80s during the summers. And then I've been to Israel several times, and then you just get to throw in a bunch of other countries along the way.
Wait. We have to back up. You just casually ran through the stoplight of being in the Soviet Union during the 80s.
Yeah, it wasn't much different than like the last 4 years here in our country, socialism, communism, cancel culture, deplatforming. It was nuts. And to see it come to our country, I'm like, that's got to stop. Fortunately, it looks like we've stopped it for temporarily.
Why have we just met you? I feel like you were made for this show.
You just said it's got to stop. So like a referee, I'm giving a technical foul.
Absolutely. And 2, you're out. So come on. And we just said that, I think, to Biden. So bye-bye.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So talk about that with the refereeing. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, you've probably seen some of the greatest moments, possibly in tournament history, I'm sure, or just NCAA basketball history. Give us like a background of that. What was that like?
Well, working the tournament's awesome. And working games, you have all these competitive alpha athletes, and you got these very feisty, fierce coaches, and a lot of pressure and coaches and fans and noise and bands. But the best officiating, to be candid with you, is not what you actually get to see. You guys typically watch live action, when the ball's in play, and then it goes to a commercial. the best officiating is dead ball officiating. It's what we're doing when you're not watching.
Yes.
And going in and going, Anthony, quit grabbing his shorts, dude, or I'm going to get you. You Matt, stay vertical on the free throws, dude. I'm going to violate you, you know. And you're actually doing what parents do and pastors do behind the scenes, not calling people out and embarrassing them, but winning them over. So when they take the court and everyone's watching, I just give you the eye, like, Anthony. And all of a sudden, in California, we have CHPs. There's a California Highway Patrol. I drive so much better when I see them in my rearview mirror. And a good referee has presence and just makes sure that the players see him, and it's like, so don't go there. Because if you do, I have to stop you, ticket you, and that takes time. I don't want to slow the game down. Keep it going.
Yeah. So, was there ever like a moment you remember that was like a cool story or like an iconic, moment in a game that you remember, like a funny moment with a university or a coach that you could share? I mean, something that, was just so like, I'll never forget this moment, and I had to either tee someone up or I had to maybe make a call that changed the game in the last like 30 seconds, or you made a review, or hey, this was a really hard like charge or block call, that's a big call to make. I mean, that's really difficult.
It's all difficult. If life is relationships.
Yes.
If you build trust with people,
there you go.
They don't need you to be perfect on the calls, but they don't want to get screwed. They want to know that you're fair and equitable. So my favorite memories, I mean, I've had coaches come out to the middle of the court, they've already got a tee, and it's like, I got to throw them out. I'm like, okay, do I want to be dramatic here, or do I want to just go, if you want to just walk quietly to the locker right now, I'll just go over to the table and let them know that our time here is done. Like, we don't need to make a show here. You're trying to, because you're going to have them again.
Yes.
If you want to ref year after year after year, you don't want to like have something dramatic
go down.
Right, bad blood.
Yes.
But my favorite memories are ones, again, you probably don't see. It's going into the locker room after a team just lost in March Madness. So that means they're out. That means
it's one and done.
That's the senior's last game ever in his lifetime since playing and then seeing guys maybe crying or, grappling, grieving, and having the coaches put their arm around him and saying, we love you, we're for you, you did a great job. Just some of those warm moments that no one sees behind the scenes where guys are kind of melting down, but you see good camaraderie and chivalry and coaches who realize basketball is just a platform.
Yes.
It's not about basketball. You get to mentor men. You get to change lives.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Did you ever have a moment where you got to pray with an athlete or a coach or, lead someone to Jesus or witness or anything like that? Do you ever have a cool moment like that?
Yeah, that happens. It certainly happens in the summer a lot because you see a lot of players and coaches in summer leagues. You're not really in game time yet. So there's the opportunity to be personal. But I've actually prayed with coaches. I got a little bit rebuked for it. But on the court where we had meltdowns and you have to bring the coaches together and go like, we're done with this, okay? We got to like get back to business. And let me pray for you guys for a minute. Lord, help these guys not be crazy. Let's go. Come on.
Wow.
And,
that is so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just bringing in the God factor. So I love that. And I think that's the biggest thing. But, not only were you standing up on the basketball court for the right call, but standing up for the right of life. Touch on that.
Well, it's just, I think of life as kind of the issue of the day. A lot of my colleagues are concerned about liberty because, our churches were shut down, it was particularly in California during COVID by our governor, who's a tyrant. And they're concerned about liberty. But I'm like, if you don't have life, you don't have liberty or anything.
Come on.
It's the foundation. Any government that's going to take away the most vulnerable, who won't speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, that's a problem. And I feel like, having come to Christ in Germany, I'm familiar with a lot of German history, which you guys are too. Mm-hmm. I kind of picture like we were in World War II. It's like 1939, 1940, 1941, and we're realizing, wait a minute, are they taking our Jewish neighbors? Do we have any duty or obligation to say something? And everyone says, oh, I would have said something. Really? You didn't say a dang thing during COVID. So I think you've already shown your colors, dude. And now that the unborn are being taken out at the Democratic National Convention, and you're not saying something, no, I don't think.
Come on, that is it right there. It requires our voice now, because here's the thing: they were taking our rights away, and I know my father. He was telling our governor, if the strip clubs and everything are going to be open,
that's right.
My church is not closing down.
Yeah, we're not essential. What's going on here?
Correct. 100%.
And then you've got to be willing to take consequences. You know, I've ref for 4 decades, and I've been nicely ranked and had good expertise and good feedback from colleagues, but I didn't get vaxxed. So now the NCAA took all my games away. 2 years in a row.
Oh
no
my
games.
gosh.
Because you're non-compliant.
Come on.
Wow.
So you got to be willing to stand up for what you believe,
Wow.
willing to be non-compliant to crazy, and willing to have a little courage.
Wow, how hard was that? I mean, just knowing that what you're standing for is true and right, but they go and put that sanction on you, and it's like, you know you're doing it for the right purpose, but it's the matter of fact of just how evil
Yeah,
the
that's
agenda was. I think people forget how evil it was, and that's been my biggest prayer is, now that Trump is back in office, we just all the more have to keep fighting and using our voice and
Absolutely.
undergird him. It's like, okay, we've crossed the Red Sea, but hey, we've got to go discover the promised land.
Yeah,
we
there's
can't
still
just wander
Jericho,
around.
dude.
Exactly.
The walls
Yes.
still have to fall.
Yes.
Yeah, and we need a little bit of Doge in the church too.
Yes,
Like we
yes.
gotta there's a lot of riffraff,
Yes.
a lot
Right.
of crazy.
Yes.
Get your rainbow flag down, and let's get back to like what we're about.
Yes.
I love that. Getting things exposed and being willing
Yes.
to sacrifice your safety and your reputation
Yes.
so you can maintain that liberty, which
That's right.
brings life. One of the things we were talking about before we came on for the interview officially was, with the White Rose Resistance, I love what you guys are doing, which we need to talk a little bit more about that.
Yes.
But just exposing how they have tried to make normal
Right.
the murdering of the innocent unborn child. And we were talking about this. What we have to really be careful of too in the body of Christ right now is there's this pro-life movement, but it's not necessarily anti-abortion.
Yeah, that's right.
There's people in the pro-life
Yeah.
movement that want
Yes.
to regulate abortion to make it more digestible.
Right.
But what we are standing for is saying, no, it doesn't matter if it's
Right.
6 weeks, 3 weeks, 9 weeks. If that child is conceived, it is a person, and we have to defend that. And so we have to be careful of blurring the lines, which I'm sure during your years of refereeing,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
something that can really change the outcome of a game. But in this instance, you can change the outcome of somebody's life,
Yeah, absolutely.
between them having life or not having life. And I think we have to be careful about that. But if you could talk some more about, what else White Rose Resistance is doing to kind of help, with no longer blurring the lines, but making a clear,
Yeah.
definite stand, helping people to do that.
Well, we're trying to awaken the church, and as a pastor myself, I want pastors to activate. And most of the guys I journey with they're good guys, but they forget we have a dual duty. Titus 1 says we're not only to teach the truth, we're to expose lies.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
This is like Nehemiah.
Yes.
You're supposed to have your trowel, but you also have to have a sword.
Yes.
Dude, this
Yep.
is like John 1. Jesus is the incarnation of grace and truth.
Yes.
You need both. And so we are no powder and pink, pro-life organization. We're like red, black, and gold,
Yeah.
We're a little more the sword because, in 1 Kings and 2 Kings, you had a lot of kings. And it says they did what was right in the sight of God,
Amen.
but they didn't tear down the high places. So in the end, they got rebuked. It's
Yes.
like they're good guys, but they didn't do the full. It's like the 2 strands of DNA
Yep,
didn't happen. You're super gracious. You taught the truth, but you didn't expose lies.
That's the
And-
thing. I agree. It's almost you're too evangelical to the point where there's no backbone to go in
There's
and
no
say,
spine.
hey, yes,
There's no.
the
cojones.
church needs that right now. I
Hello?
love what he's saying.
I'm-
That is the spot on. Like, we need to have a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not profound theology.
Yes.
As a father of 5 kids and 5 grandkids, look, I want to develop our kids,
Yes.
but they also need discipline.
Yes.
My wife loves to garden, yours might too, Great, you grow a nice garden, but you have to pull weeds too. Like, you got to do
That's
both.
real.
This is not, you want to shepherd the sheep, that's great. But you have to ward off the wolves. You're not going to talk about CRT, BLM, come on.
You're hitting it.
I'm telling you, where's he been?
Yeah,
Where's he
this
been
is
for the show?
awesome,
This
man.
is
Just
such a
please
good-
keep going. I'm telling you, because that is the number one thing that's been missing in the church is, okay, all the churches that shut down their buildings, did nothing, cooperated, and it's like, we could be
They didn't
evangelical.
cooperate, they complied.
Yes, that too.
And compromise.
100%. And they literally were like, we're just going to be silent. Just not say anything, not stand up. And I appreciate the people that said, no, this is garbage what's going on.
Right.
We're going to use our voice. We're not going to just give way to this movement, because you're right. It was very much the same mentality, agenda, way, the same spirit as what Nazi Germany was doing. The exact same thing. And it's like they thought, okay, if we can get them on this, what can we get away with?
Yeah. And we're back in the garden with Adam watching passively as Eve is destroyed by Satan. I mean, this kind of passivity is just nutso.
Yes.
And it's like, where are the men with chests? This isn't just a theological issue. This is like about courage and grit and gumption. It's like, what the heck? I love all my pastor friends, but I had no idea they were so soft.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
What were you thinking
crazy.
when the tournament got canceled? Because that was the first thing that really went, was the tournament that year. When COVID first came, it was the tournament that got canceled, and then the NBA kind of left after that.
Is so woke and weird, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just recently, Trump made a national order that women can't play. Men can't play in women's sports.
Yes.
The NC2A just complied, but it's like, why didn't you make that decision yourself?
That's what I'm saying.
They've been nutso. They're woke. They're weird. They've ruined our brand. I mean, this is like a bad Bond movie.
And then the NILs kind of come into this whole thing now, and that's taken a big thing where now these athletes, it's not about the courage of the game anymore. It's about, okay, well, I'll play 1 year for a university, and then I could just flat out leave and go somewhere else. I mean, in football, teams are canceling their spring games because, we're afraid to showcase our players in spring ball because another university is going to go out and poach them. We've become so money-driven hungry in this country that we're forgetting the integrity of the game, the right to life, churches, what it's about. It's this same evangelical, like, water everything down, be nice, make it look pretty.
Yeah.
And then we forget that, hey, like you said, there's also the wolves we've got to fight here.
Yeah, no doubt. And you guys are doing a great job. I mean, you're on the cutting edge. You're out there, a little provocative, a little Tabasco in your personality. Blow a few things up. Let's see what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah. But we need that. When you're in an extended period of just vanilla, we need some spice. When you're in an extended, and this is one of the things with Seth Gruber and the White Rose.
Yes.
It's like there's enough pro-life organizations out there that are pink and powder, and I'm fine with that. Mothers need praying. We need, baby showers. We need all that. But who's going to deal with the evil? If we're going to add something, let's not repeat what everyone else is doing.
Wow.
Let's bring in the sword. I see enough trial ministries. There's a lot of build. Who's going to battle? Let's go.
I love it. Well, and what you're just painting there, David, is an incomplete gospel.
Yeah, that's right.
Where we've focused on a lot of the bless me scriptures. You can make it, you can do it scriptures, the prosperity, that's part of our inheritance.
What happened to Acts 20, the full counsel of God? Hello?
Yes.
Wow.
You got to...
Yes.
And refing, you get too punctiliar, you got to open your vision here, dude.
Yes.
You're going to miss the play.
Yes. Because so let's talk about that. There's that one side, but we've been missing how the church was birthed. If you look at Acts, where were they birthed? It was in Jerusalem. I was just looking this up. You've been widely traveled, so you probably know this. But in that region, Judaism is heavily rooted. So it is hard to convert people who are the Jewish faith like that, because that's just part of the Mosaic law. That's just what they do. Jesus instructs them to go wait in Jerusalem for the Holy Spirit. So the hardest place to convert people, he chose them to go to battle against this religious spirit.
Yeah.
And the church was birthed out of them going into a territory that was seemingly impossible to overtake. And look what happened.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, because I think we have a very similar narrative playing out with millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. So this is the group that we're targeting.
Right.
Where this group is seemingly impossible to convert.
Right.
To bring back to the identity of Christ.
Yeah.
What would you say to your fellow pastors, counterparts, people that are trying to reach this generation about bringing a complete message of building, but also truth?
Yeah. Well, particularly with young men, and you guys are masculine dudes, you're warriors. They need someone to give them a reason to get up in the morning and to live. These guys are not doing very well. Just porn, addiction, craziness, games. But this goes back to, again, Adam and Eve. there was already a spiritual war, as you know, going on. Satan had already rebelled.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Adam, you dropped the ball. This is not like a romantic garden you're in. You're in a battle.
Wow.
You know, you're supposed to you're supposed to like subdue the earth because the earth was in chaos. You're supposed to take dominion. That's from the first person on. Like, did we forget? Like, while we're here, look, this is not our home. We're not
so
here
good.
for the long haul. We're gonna like meet on the other side. That'll be super cool. We'll have a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
But while we're here, get your battle attire on because
Amen.
that's why you're here. And I think young people want a battle to fight for. They want a purpose. They all talk about that. It's like, get over it. You know, get engaged and you'll come alive.
Yeah. I think
it.
people realize, you know, or should realize more that it was the religious Pharisaical spirit that killed Jesus.
Yes.
That's what we're dealing with today. It's that religious Pharisaical, you know, doctor everything up, like the
traditions
politically
of men.
correct statements all the time, like tradition, and then you lose sight of the fight at that point. And it's like
Jesus went out of his way to rebuke religious people, right? You just
he was a savage.
Take something as familiar as the Good Samaritan.
Yes.
It seems like non-believers know this story, right? If you're a Good Samaritan, you're a good guy. Well, what's the story about? It's about a priest who walked by so detached, didn't do a dang thing, and then a Levite goes by and you think, oh, now this guy's going to get help. No, he walked by the other side too. Totally detached, totally disconnected from reality. The only guy who saw the problem, whether the issue's life or liberty or whatever, saw there's a problem was the Samaritan. That's like an SC student for me at UCLA. You know, it's like, what? That's like that's like a Duke guy for you. Like, what?
We're North Carolina Tar Heel basketball fans.
That's so
the
good.
Duke guy went over. It's like, well, at least he did something. The UCLA guy just passed by. The North Carolina guy passed by. And who were those guys? The religious people.
Wow, that is so real, man.
What a rebuke.
But that's encouraging, though, for those that are listening and watching, because God's not just going to use the highly religious leaders. He's going to use your common, everyday people that could be considered social outcasts.
It was such a rebuke
Yeah.
against the religious establishment.
Wow.
The deep state. You know, it was such a
deep
rebuke.
state of the church.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
And see, that's the other thing, because we've seen the rhinos that have, I mean, where were you? Where was Vice President Pence?
Yeah.
Where was so many other people that had the opportunity and the power to stand up and did nothing?
Yeah,
they
that's
did
right.
nothing.
Yeah. Thank you, Mitt Romney.
Yes.
Thank you, Mitch McConnell.
Yes.
You know, come on.
Did nothing. And it's that watered down, you know, they didn't stand with President Trump. They didn't stand for truth and righteousness. They wanted to be politically correct. They cared only about their name and what they could do to advance themselves, not the integrity of the country.
Self-righteous.
But the problem is
smug.
the church did not hold them accountable.
That too.
It is our job as citizens, but also as the authority, spiritually speaking, over this nation to hold them accountable spiritually and physically by doing our part of being involved. And so to that point about getting our swords ready, you know, we're not saying start a coup or anything, but we're saying there comes a point where you've got to get off your butt and get engaged in the battle. The battle of going out and, I don't know anything about politics. Well, go on Google. Go to your weekly town hall, start getting involved, you know, somehow.
Yeah, you have all these pastors saying, too, I don't want to get political, Dave. I don't want to get political. So, one, silence is consent, according to Numbers and Leviticus.
Wow.
So that's a problem.
Yes.
You know, you didn't say a thing. But I don't think, like, Daniel wanted to get political, but God had him confront Nebuchadnezzar. Do you think Moses wanted to get political, but he said, no, you're going to confront Pharaoh? Do you think Esther wanted to get political, but he said, you're going to have to confront Xerxes? Do you think Jesus wanted to get political? He had to deal with Pontius Pilate. Like, I don't want to get political either, but we're not going to watch what's happening in the public square and do nothing.
That's
That's ridiculous.
And, I mean, here's the thing. Hitler was asked about this too, and he said, because they were like, okay, well, with your plan, what about the Christians? What about the church? And he goes, oh, I'm not worried about the church. They're too busy fighting with each other and arguing with each other. So to your point, that is exactly it. We have got to stop in the church with the friendly fire. At some point, grow a backbone, like you're saying, and let's get in the enemy's camp now and start taking territory.
Absolutely.
You have to. You got to take territory.
Well, just like you said, when it comes to refereeing, right? You can't make every call for every wrong
That's
thing.
That's a great way to ruin the game. Call every touch foul. That'll be nice. They won't even have a game.
Yeah.
Like, major on the majors, don't call the little crap. And with churches, it's like, what do you stand for? What are you willing to die for?
Yes.
Like, what are the essential doctrines of the revelation from God the Father, the redemption from Christ on the cross, the regeneration of the Holy Spirit? But do you want to add 42 other things? Really, you Presbyterians, charismatic, blah, blah, like they all have their, like, we're not going to unite unless we know what the core is that we stand for.
So good. We got to stop blowing the whistle on each other.
Thank you.
Come into a place of a unified understanding of who it is we're serving. And like you said, why are we here at the end of the day?
Absolutely. And look, we all have different views. We haven't hashed out all our theology. But are we going to lose our unity over that? I don't think so.
No.
That's so good. And I think, there's a lot of people out there that are so gifted but they don't trust the God-given ability that's been placed on their life, so they just stay silent. It's like, okay, you were a ref. It's like taking a big man who's a 5, and he's like built like Shaq, but he wants to sit out on the 3-point line and try to be a 3-point shooter. It's like, dude, go bang in the post and make rebounds, crash the glass, and get second chance points, things like that, and be nasty down there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably saw
and
a lot of that.
You have a lot of viewers who might say, well, Anthony could do it better than I could, or Matt could do it better than I could, or maybe Dr. Dave could do it better. Dude, we do not live on your street.
Come on.
We don't go to your workplace.
So good.
We're not in your cul-de-sac. We're not in your school. I'm not in your classroom.
Yes.
If you're there, you're God's providential choice for those people, right?
Yes.
Hello, let's go.
It goes back to what we've said. The reason why you exist, Matt, is because God saw a problem on this earth that you were created to solve.
Yes.
Amen.
So if we're too busy watching other people do their thing, that means there are problems that are not being accounted for because you are being passive and being a bench player.
Yes.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to come off and get on the game.
There's got to be an element of, they always said the Jordan or Kobe mindset, right? You got to just put your head down and go to work now.
Go to work.
It's like get to the lane, get to the hoop and score, make a play. And sometimes I think, it's like, what was the knack on some of those guys like LeBron or something, right? It was like, man, if he had that killer Jordan, Kobe mindset, it's like, dude, you're twice the size of everybody. Just go to the lane and go outbody somebody. But, I'm just going to pass it off to somebody else. I want to try to get everyone else involved, which, okay, there's times for that. But sometimes you got to go out and be the leader. That's what Game Changers is about, too. It's like, change the game. Stop passing it off to the other person.
Yeah, you can't change the game if you're not in it.
Yes.
So get out of the stands. Everyone knows the right calls in the stands. Come on, get your stripes on and a whistle and make a call on the court. Let's go.
Amen.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode, we appreciate you guys tuning in with us. Keep going. Keep changing the game wherever you're at. Like, subscribe, go to our YouTube page. We are so happy that you have joined us. We are going to keep changing the game with you alongside of us. And guys, wherever you're at, remember, God is calling you to change the game in your city, in your schools, your universities, churches, wherever you are at. You can make an impact. And don't forget that. We love each and every one of you. We'll see you soon on Primetime Game Changers.